Maloile day, talofa lava, and hello, howdy to everyone. In
Hmm.
this, depending on what part of the world you're at, here in New Zealand, it is about 4:51 p.m. So it's a nice afternoon here during our summer days here in
Saturday,
New Zealand.
right?
Saturday, yes, Saturday here. Beautiful weather. What like to welcome you all to the live digital kava session on the Polynesian Nights podcast. Here with Dua from Texas, Central Texas. How's it going down on that side of the world, Dua?
It's going good. Happy Valentine's Days to those
Happy
who are still in
Valentine.
Valentine. I know Mr. Atero is a day ahead. We're
Yes,
old news. They already
yes.
had Valentine's. It's rainy and misty here in South Central Texas. Kind of, you know how I don't know if those who are familiar with areas that snow, when it snows and it's almost like a foggy, the air feels heavy. Just
Mm,
imagine that, but just mist. That's what San
okay.
Antonio feels like today. The wife and I went out to dinner, celebrate Valentine's. Once again, grateful another year. She still loves me, so still
Nice.
tolerates me, hasn't kicked me out, you know. But came out kind of unusual. Felt like, man, this is what it feels like when there's snow, but it's just not cold. And that's
Mm,
why we live in warm weather, Masi,
mm.
because we love that kind of stuff. So
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
really excited for today. We have a good program for everyone here. We're going to start off before we jump into it, Masi. Anything else you want to kind of touch into?
Ooh. No, just touch on the Valentine's. I know yesterday we kind of planned to do something, Tua, but
Yes,
I got caught up because it was our Valentine's, and then I ended up picking up my wife from work, and then we ended up going for dinner for Valentine's. So
good choice.
that's why that didn't work yesterday. But I'm glad we were able to do one after you took your wife out in the family for Valentine's. So and wish
Yeah.
everyone if you have your wife or your spouse with you, wish them happy Valentine's. And if you are single, look for your next spouse. But
and
come next year, you can celebrate Valentine's. But
and
so
if
yeah,
not, we'll celebrate Valentine's on the live digital kava session
yes,
here.
yes,
Right, the
yes,
Polynesian
yes.
Ice Kalapu here. We welcome you, and
We are here.
we'll be your Valentines. Even
Yes,
though
sir.
I do agree with Mr. Atearoa, it's better you go find a real Valentines. We're just a fill-in, right? We're
Yes.
just a substitute
Mm.
until you figure out what
Temporary,
you need to do.
temporary. Ew.
Short term fix, guys. We
Yes.
don't want this to be the long-term solution, right? Just like one of our short videos that we released today or yesterday, where we talked about government assistance shouldn't be plan A or the long-term plan.
Correct.
It's
It's
a
a short
plan
term.
B. It's called a safety net for a reason. And the best thing for you and the family is, hey, use it if you got to. There's nothing wrong with using it. That's why it's there.
Hmm.
But we as Polynesians, as seafarers, as like Moana and them say, a tautai, rather,
Yes.
we take the future with faith. We're bold. We say the future. You don't go out as a voyager to discover new things if you don't believe there's an island out there. That if you don't
Correct.
believe that there's opportunity out there or something better for you, then our ancestors wouldn't have been voyagers. They wouldn't have been going out risking their lives just to say, "Oh, I knew there was no island out here. We're just out here to suffer and die." Yeah, we're a very optimistic people. We're a very resilient people, and we're very driven by faith in the future. So I don't know
Yes.
where that came from, but that's what our message is for that.
Yes. No, that's good. And I just want to let everyone know that we're live on YouTube,
Yes,
Facebook, also live in what else? Too, you can kind of add on what else?
Instagram,
Instagram,
Patreon,
Patreon,
and X.
and X. There we go. There we go, everybody.
Yes, we're still on. We're on X. We're trying to help our cousin Elon with all the hard
Elon.
work that he's doing, but we'll dive into some U.S. politics later on.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're going to start with, Mr. Atearoa, is some commentary on social media.
Okay.
Um, and you know what? Why can't I see? I can't see. Oh, maybe it's here. I don't see the thing where. Oh, I know why. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all
So usually the presentation button is right in front of me, but then it disappeared because I changed to a different screen. Um, Let me bring this up. So can't really see it here. Let me try and zoom in. Um, oh, okay. Let's actually start with this video,
okay.
right? So there's a video online. This is where the comment I made on this video. This individual is called Polly Lore. Has some interesting content, right?
Yeah.
He goes into like Egyptian cosmology, Egyptian
Mm-hmm.
astronomy. He makes or she makes some connections. Some of them a little bit. Everybody has their own ideas,
Yeah.
just like people listen to our ideas and like
Yeah.
these guys are crazy. So we all feel that about each other. But
We've
he
had
was
we've had some comments too, Tua, right? That people have the idea also that there's some connection to ancient Egypt, right?
correct.
So yeah, we've had kind of some of our viewers are kind of the same line of thinking of kind of where the Polynesian people kind of came from that ancient Egypt. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So what we're gonna dive into is in this video, they talk about the Ha'amonga, or in the Samoan or the Ha'amoa's perspective, the Amonga is
Mm,
what they call it. It sounds like, and they have some interesting ideas there. So we'll just start by watching the video first. There's the connection to Egypt.
mm,
So basically, it was
okay.
showing like the Samoan Islands are part of the Orion constellation and so
Okay.
forth. And in the comments, well, it looks like there was quite a bit after my first comment.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah.
in
Looks
the
like there's
comments to the video, right? My comment in response to the video was, "So why is the Ha'amonga built in Tonga?"
yeah. Yeah.
Right? If
Yeah.
if the Ha'amonga or the Amonga is such an important constellation, which we agree it is,
It is.
why is the Ha'amonga then on Tongatapu and not somewhere in Ha'amoa?
Correct.
Any thoughts on that, Masi, before we go into some of the comments back and forth here?
Uh, I think we kind of mentioned it, right? The reason why it's in Tonga, the origin, that's where everything starts. It's kind of like the whole origin of Polynesian society where it started, right? The Ha'amonga, full name of the Ha'amonga is Ha'amonga Maui. We believe that Maui built it to help with the constellation of navigation throughout the whole entire island, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the seas, right? So, and what makes Polynesian unique compared to the European, because right, the European people that were probably the best navigators were the Vikings, but they only
Mm-hmm.
used the North Star as their direction, cardinal direction of navigating the seas. But they were not, they wouldn't be able to navigate the southern hemisphere seas because there was no North Star, right? But the Orion is you can use that to navigate both northern
Correct.
hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So that's why the Ha'amonga, the Orion constellation of stars, is very important to Polynesian um, navigation, right? So that's just me to add on to that, Tua, unless I don't know if I'm missing something or
No,
in the addition.
100%. It's the Ha'amonga Maui and the Hook of Maui are the two critical
Mm,
constellations, right? For 6 months of the year, depending on where you are in on planet Earth,
yeah.
right? For 6 months, Ha'amonga Maui is the key one. Then, because you rotate and the Earth um, revolves around the sun, the other 6 months you don't see the Ha'amonga Maui and you see the Hook of Maui, and
Mm,
that becomes the constellation. So, depending on which part of the year would
okay.
determine that constellation, but it seems like the best time to travel, typically, or at least for a lot for the Tuitonga and the Ha'amaui, it was the Ha'amonga. That was the critical piece for navigation. And um, so here's some of I really want to talk about. Let me see if it shows the comments. Because really they're trying to say here, Polylore is you really think Ha'amonga is a Tongan word. It is a cognate of the Samoan word A'amonga that was introduced with the ancient Manua bloodline along with the Tu'i title. Hence why it's known to be an ancient word in Tonga now. The name for Orion's belt is Alotolu in Tongan astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Amonga Ha'amonga is the Samoan metaphor for the pillars that hold up the heavens. Balancing pole, Amonga Orion's belt. Okay.
Interesting.
So yes, it is very interesting.
Yes.
But for the wrong reasons, right? Number
Yes.
one, the Ha'amonga is called Ha'amonga
Yes. For
in the
Orion.
sky as it is on
Correct.
Earth. And the
Yeah.
Alotolu is the three stars that's part of one of the Toloa constellations. And that's
Mm.
why it's called Alotolu, the three
Yeah.
rowers.
Yeah.
Therefore, the three rowers means three stars, and the
Mm-hmm.
Ha'amonga is 4 stars.
For.
So right off the bat, there, that's something that just kind of just when you do a common sense analysis of it, and we'll get into the details on how to break this down. But this is why it's important to have these conversations, right?
Yes.
If
Very
if you're
critical.
if you're just talking back and forth in a faikava or hanging out with buddies or on social media, which we promote conversations everywhere,
Yeah.
but
In
without the
all
right
forms, in
knowledge,
different
yeah,
forms.
all
Yeah.
forms, but without the correct knowledge,
Mm.
polylore seems relatively convincing. And I've read the reason why they believe this, and the reason why is there was a Westerner, and I think it's the same one. I could be wrong. The same Westerner who documented that Maui Fusifonua was in Ha'amoa and that Tangaloa and them went to Maui Fusifonua to get his hook, blah, blah, blah. That
Correct.
was
Correct.
either the same guy, if it's not the exact same guy, but it's the same setup. Some Westerner asked someone in the royal family or someone in Tonga, what is the constellation Ha'amonga in the sky? And they
Mm.
said, oh, the Tongans said that the Tongans call it Alotol.
Hmm.
And therefore, people like Polylore, which we don't blame them because that's some of the documentation that's out there, right?
Mm.
When you're in, how do I say this to be not offensive? When you're an outsider looking in, you have to rely on data points from other people, right?
Yes.
But when you're on the inside looking out, you don't have to rely on a missionary's account of what Tongan astronomy is. This is why Tevita Fale's work is so critical. He wasn't an outsider looking in. He was sitting down with not just one source, but multiple sources that said, no, the Alotolu is not the Ha'amonga.
Mm.
Ha'amonga is not the Alotolu. And not only that, actually, here is what the sky looked like to our ancestors, right?
Yeah.
And let me just pull this up real quick. Let me change it. Any comments, Masi, while I pull
Yeah.
up
No, I was
this?
gonna say. So the Alotolu Tua, what the Polylore is referring to, is what we say for the Toloa constellation.
Part. It's a part of the Toloa. It's called the Toloa or Puatau Kanave.
Okay.
And I'll
Okay.
show you. I'll show you the work that
All right.
Devita Fal has done on that. But it's like basically the wings of the Toloa, one of the side, the right side of the wings, depending on what your or how you're looking at it. But let me share it real quick.
Mm.
So this is the Ha'amonga, right? Part of Orion, right here. This is the Alotolu right here. These three larger stars, the three larger stars part of the Toloa. The head
Okay. Where's
points to the
okay?
three.
Where's Alotolu and Ulutolu kind of
Yeah.
thing? Where it's okay.
So what Polylore is trying to comment here is he's saying, oh, the Tongans called the Ha'amonga Alotolu
Hmm.
because this person, this Westerner, documented it as so, and therefore everyone's saying, oh, that's what it is. This is the type of miscommunication and misunderstanding and misappropriation of knowledge of ancient astronomy that we're talking about. Because if you were talking to someone and you pointed into the sky, hey, what are these? It's easy to be like, oh, are they talking about the Ha'amonga or are they talking about these three stars right here? You see how
Mm,
easily miscommunication can happen?
yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's the thing that I think is important. And oh, looks like we have Slick Rick, Malo,
Hey, welcome,
welcome.
welcome, Slippery.
So this is the type of commentary that we're talking about. So here we have Polly Lore telling us that the Ha'amonga is Samoan, even though there's no such thing as Samoan and Tongan from back in the day, but he's trying to tell us the Tongans called the Ha'amonga Alotolu, and Alotolu is this. And like I said, even from a common sense, why would we call a four-starred constellation Tolu,
Alotol. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That
Right
doesn't
off the
fit the
bat, that
logic.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we really want to clarify that because
Well,
in
then,
his comments, he's like,
yes.
show me how it is. It's like, well, buddy, I know why you believe that, but this is the reality. Any comments,
Yeah.
Masi?
No, and I was gonna say, and the other question is, why is the Ha'amonga in Tongatapu, right? Not in
Yes, exactly.
Upolu or Manua, for say, because they keep referring to Manua being like the place of origin. Then, if it was that important, and the founder, and to me, I wouldn't have a problem if it was in Manua, Upolu, or Savai. If there was a
It doesn't matter.
Ha'amonga,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter, right? Because we're all kind of the same Polynesian people trying to figure out our and discover our origin. But the question you would have to ask yourselves, why is the Ha'amonga Amawi the critical part ruined for navigation in Tonga Tapu? There's a reason, right? Because it's the place where Maui, kind of the first Maui, I believe, right? The first Maui settled, built it upon uh, Tonga Tapu, and it became like kind of like, I don't know, I feel like the source of the knowledge of navigation, of navigating the stars. So that's
100%.
why it's in Tonga Tapu. That's why it's in Tonga Tapu.
Yeah, and we're gonna dig into this. Like, I just want all of our viewers and everyone. We're gonna drive this home that it's almost undeniable that not only the fact that the Ha'amonga is on Tongatapu, but it is so ingrained into every aspect of the culture. It's like my next question is why is it on Tongatapu? And I did ask this on social media. Show me where in the Ha'amonga culture of the structure of the culture that shows me that the Ha'amonga was that important to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're gonna show you on this episode how critical the Ha'amonga was, not just as a megalithic structure that is kind of like a major deal, not only in Polynesia but around the world, but how big of a deal it is for the Tongan culture as a whole. And we're going to dive into some of these. Let me open some of these. Let's open this one up because I have a variety of pictures. We're going to start with the Ha'amonga itself, right? This is one of the reasons why we don't believe the Ha'amonga was, quote unquote, an entrance to Atu'itonga's residence,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
If you're just walking along and you see, oh, look, it looks like a door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of
That's what an
similar,
outsider would say.
would say.
Yes,
Exactly.
for
That's what an
sure.
outsider would say, right?
Yes.
And then you come back to, let's use this. This is one of the covers of Devita Fale's books, right?
Hmm.
And if you notice something, this is the equator, east to west, right?
Hmm.
And if you notice also, you see the Toloa
Yeah.
inside, the
Hmm.
Ha'amonga goes like this, right? It goes across down here and cuts it in half. So the
Hmm.
Ha'amonga, it's a reflection of not only the solstices and dividing of the seasons, it also represents the double V. That's why the
That's on
double
top.
V was
It's on top
carved
of the
on
house.
top of the Ha'amonga.
Yes.
Like, these are all very different pieces of knowledge, all integrated around the Ha'amonga,
Hmm.
right? The Ha'amonga tells you the seasons. The Ha'amonga tells you where the sun rises and sets. It tells you the best times to navigate. It is also the navigational tool for 6 months of the year to give you direction. And I'll come back to, let me see if I can find it. Oh, I have to, right here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Can you see that, Masi?
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm going to zoom in. See, and you see it here, all integrated.
Mm.
And this is all work done by Tevita Fale. Oh, sorry. Okay, maybe I have to use the mouse. See, once here, you have the Ha'amonga, right? The seasons, the
Yep.
months of the year, right? The double V, rising and setting of the sun. Let me see. I need to move this way. How do I move? Okay. Sorry. Any comments, Masi, while I try to navigate through this?
No, I mean, I'll just comment on the aspect of the ha'amonga, like what you're saying, how it's very important, and me being in Ha'amoa for a good majority time, Ha'amonga, it's not, to me, my understanding, it wasn't a thing that reflected their culture in a per se, Dua. So I'm interested if maybe, what is this poly lore? Maybe can put some evidence of the Ha'amonga reflection in the in the Ha'amoa's structure, because like we said, the Ha'amonga is very critical in the whole our kava ceremony, and also
Mm-hmm.
also understanding the what the Ha'amonga was there for, right? It was like a sun gate, telling where the sun was gonna be, and the different times of seasons of where the sun will kind of ascend and also descend, right? So when sunrise and sunset. So yeah, no, that's just kind of my comments
No,
there.
appreciate that. So will come here and we'll talk real quick on a question. So Slick Rick. Well, first we'll go to Mo. Hey, Mo Malo. He says, "What's
What's
up,
up?
Tonga kids?"
What's up, Moy?
Malo. So Slick Rick asks about this right here, and I'll highlight it. This is a Olmec, and it has, and he asks, "What's the structure there for?" And the answer is, Slick Rick. You see the 3 points over the head. That is part of the double V symbolism, right? Like right here, right? That's the double V. This is the double V. And that was the same double V that was found etched on top of the Ha'amonga. So it's the same knowledge that the Egyptians had, right?
Mm.
And just like showing here, the tying of the Ha'amonga to the Milky Way and the moving of the constellations. So to answer that question, Slick Rick, the etchings on top of those holes on top of the head is tied to the double V.
And do is that pretty much an Olmec kind of feature, or was that more like a Mayan? Like what kind of, is there
So the
any?
yeah, so the Olmecs are kind of like one of those mysterious kinds of cultures. They're found
Mhm.
everywhere, and one of the oldest in the Americas. They predate the Mayans and so forth.
Correct, correct. Okay.
So, but yeah, really, what I wanted, I tried to zoom in here, but for everyone, this is once again, you see the Ha'amonga right here,
Yeah.
right, and then you see east, west, north, south, and the Ha'amonga. And actually, let's do this. So I'm going to open up another set of um, photos here, and I think this will help people appreciate the kind of work that Devita Fale has done. Um, because I don't know anyone else like Devita Fale likes to say, no one is stupid enough like him to do this work.
Yeah.
That's that's
Yeah.
that's his go-to phrase, right? Is he's all like, no one is stupid enough to do this like
I,
me.
it's stupid because he was able to do it and still have a family. That's what he's trying to say.
Yes, Yes.
That's the crazy thing. He was stupid enough to do it knowing there was going to take a lot of sacrifice that you don't know what if you're still going to have a family or not.
Family or not. Yes. And that's why no man can do anything without a good wife supporting him at the end of
Correct.
the day.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Here's interesting. I did see some of those comments, Slick Rick, where Hancock and Joe Rogan on his podcast say they believe the Olmec to be like African or Polynesian just because of the
Mm,
nose and the head shape, and so forth. And Moe says, I have a feeling that the Ha'amonga was the center, and from there Polynesian people went out from all that. That's what we believe as well, Moe.
yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Hardcore.
That's our perspective. Um,
Another thing too, I was thinking it could have been the Ha'amonga maybe area when it was kind of first being built inside. I feel like that was where they were mapping out where all the islands were, and they're
no,
gonna,
100%.
you know what I mean? Like I feel like it was a significant place for the early existence of people in the various islands in Polynesia.
100%. And that's one of the reasons why, Masi, I say there must have been a written language at some point because you're out, or at least at the very least, like you're saying, map drawing,
Mm,
right? But once you're
mm,
map drawing, this is, I made a comment in one of our previous episodes that I said I believe that our ancestors knew that the earth was round, right?
mm.
And the reason why I say that is because of this knowledge. If you
Yeah,
if you if you
it's just so
observe that the
yeah,
sky moves like this,
yeah,
well, what shape is that? Right? And that the
yeah.
sun moves and well, what shape is that? It doesn't
Well,
take once you understand the sophisticated nature and the predictable pattern of the heavens, the natural thing you would think is, oh yeah, the earth is round.
yes. Well, right. In the early Europeans, they've always thought the Earth was flat for a long,
Yes.
long time because they
Yeah.
only had one cardinal star that they were kind of going by when they navigated just that side of the world. But when you remember, we kind of mentioned it before. There's the Orion and then the Hook of Maui. So there's no way if you have those two knowledge that depending on the season, you would have to think there's no way the world is flat. It had to be
Exactly.
moving and around or something, right? So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, and
That
it
makes
makes perfect sense because look, this is so what I'm gonna show with everyone here is just one example of some of the work that Vita Fale has done with his star maps. Okay.
okay.
So this is 1 year of De Vita Fale's work. 1 year of observing the stars from Hawaii over a year. And he drew out these maps. Every night, going out, watching the sun, the stars move and mapping them, right? Like
Mm,
our ancestors did for
yeah.
thousands of years. So this is someone, and now to think, now multiply what he did there for this one thing. This is on top of all his other work, right? Of the language, of art and history and all. This is just one of the tasks he was doing for 12 months. And as we can see here, there's the Ha'amonga.
Mm,
This is the Milky Way coming across here. And you see the Ha'amonga, it moves from east to west. And you'll watch. So watch as the Ha'amonga moves right there. So I think this is
2009 from what I see.
2009.
Yeah.
So I want to say this might be December, but I'm going to defer just because I don't know the exact details. But so that's, let's say, December, January, February. You see the Ha'amonga Maui move,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it's moving with that, like, looks like a fish
Humu.
constellation. Yeah.
What the Hawaiians called the Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apua. Huh?
Apua kind of thing. Yeah. So as you see, and this is why the key to mapping the pattern of the skies is the Milky Way, because you can track the Milky Way as it moves along and everything moves together. So as you go through the year, you just see the Ha'amonga moving together with the Milky Way. And depending on where on the earth you are, right, and the time of year, this is why the Ha'amonga being built on Tongatapu was so critical, because
Yeah.
the Ha'amonga on Tongatapu will tell you what time of the year it is. And if you go into the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, it will tell you which constellations you should be tracking when you head out.
Mm.
right? Are you heading out at this time of the year? Which month of the year, right? And if you're planning to be gone for 6 months or whatever, do you
Yeah.
see how this becomes critical for tracking and travel? Um, Looks like we have a couple comments coming this way. Hey, Clyde Moore says, Kia ora,
Hey,
whanau.
welcome,
Malo, malo, Clyde
welcome,
Moore.
Claymore.
Welcome. He said, Oi, is that the Ufi Pit constellation? And well, and what's funny is there are constellations that are Ufi. I do know that some of them are
Mm,
Ufi, but this is an inside joke in reference to the Tu'imanua's such loyal followers that when
followers.
they did the archaeological, hey, you see all these little rock mounds? The most loyal followers of the Tu'imanua, they buried themselves there. They go do the archaeological excavation and found Ufi pits. So
Oof.
the most loyal followers of the Tu'imanua were Ufi. Not trying to be rude, but that's funny. Come on.
Yeah.
And so we'll come back to here. So as you track it, and it moves right here, and then you can see the alotolu on the inside, right,
Yeah.
Masi? The
Yeah.
inside of the ha'amonga. Then as the year goes, look at what it pops into. It now switches. The ha'amonga now,
Becomes
if you're in the northern
Hukamau.
hemisphere, the Hukamaui now pops up. And then you
Yeah.
have the southern crosses.
And that's what you're using to follow. Mm,
Yes. So once again, and then if you watch, look at how it goes across. It's the Milky Way and the pattern of the Milky Way. But as you can see, I think actually this one might be the part of a Ufi, if I remember correctly. But I don't
mm,
want to speak out of turn. Um, so this is the stuff that we're talking about, right? With Tevita Fale and the work that he's done. And then any other comments on that, Masi? Because I want to go into some other things, parts of the Ha'amonga. So once again, the Ha'amonga was so important to Ha'amoa, but we don't have this information of how and why it was important to them.
I just want to point out to that. You know that south is that the clouds? What are those? You know these kind of clusters of stars. What are you know these ones? Are those like the? Is there? You know the name for those two?
Yeah, those are the Magellanic clouds up here
That's isn't that the one to find
for Aotearoa. Yeah,
Aotearoa, right? There's out
yeah,
there, and then Aotearoa is the further one.
yeah.
Okay, no, that's
So
because
this
that's
is this one, yeah.
yes. No, I was gonna say because that was the navigation for the Polynesians in those days to find the northern island and the southern island, which the reference was out there for the northern island, Aotearoa for the further south island. So
Southern.
I just wanted to make sure because I was like, hey, if I wanted to go to New Zealand, I've got to follow those clusters of
Hey, follow his
stars.
to get back for Valentine's. Well, and here's the interesting thing, and a lot of people might notice this. Devita Fale's star maps always has north at the top,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And instead of south at the bottom. And the reason behind that is Tonga Tapu was the cardinal direction. Everything kind of going back to what you said earlier, Masi. The Ha'amonga was where everything was mapped, and so everything points back to
mm,
Tonga Tapu and the Ha'amonga. So from the Polynesian navigator's perspective, your quote unquote North Star or everything points back to Tonga Tapu.
double.
That is the reference point. So from the ancient Polynesian navigator, south was the primary direction on
Yeah,
how they viewed the constellations.
yeah. No, and I think just to verify though, right? If you have the Ha'amonga star constellation of star, and you also had the Maui kind of constellation star, you our people already knew the world was there's no way it was flat. It was always
Yeah.
round. It
Yes.
depends. Just like
Yeah.
you went through that kind of slideshow just to show all of a sudden it changed from the Orion star, the Ha'amonga to what? The Maui, Huko Maui, right?
Maui's. Yeah.
Because it depends on the season.
Not 100%. And so that here's another thing that I said the point we're driving here is, and for those who kind of joined us after the fact, there is a video online stating that the Ha'amonga is based from Ha'amoa, and that the Tongan astronomical name for the Ha'amonga was Alotolu. We've shown that that is incorrect,
Mm.
right? The if you can see here, the Alotolu are the three stars, part of the Toloa constellation, and inside of the Ha'amonga itself. Um, the next thing, and we're going to go over every little detail here. What do we see here? We see Maui's kava bowl. This is why Maui's kava bowl has four legs. It
Mm.
represents the Ha'amonga of Maui. It represents that. That's why it has four stars. That's why the double V is in the center, right?
Mm.
And it
Because it's
goes
after the
east
hot
to
moa.
west.
Yep.
It's after the Ha'amonga. So once again, the Ha'amonga is from Tonga. And when we say Tonga, that's a reference as the capital of the Polynesian Empire and all of those things, right? And it's ingrained into every. So we have the kava bowl is built off of that. The
Mm.
constellation we have, like we mentioned earlier. Well, look and behold of right here, the
Yep.
Puritaunga. What is
Mm-hmm.
right there? This is why the center point of the equator in the Ha'amonga of the kava ceremony, it
Halaka.
represents the equator. And how does the Ha'amonga cradle the equator? Well, like this, right
Mm.
there. There's the Ha'amonga. It cradles it. Let's find a better picture of it. Um, let's try this one right here. So there's east west.
Mm-hmm.
Ha'amonga cut it in half. Half of the Ha'amonga is in the south. Half of it is in the north. That is exactly duplicated or replicated in the Furitaunga or the Taumafakava. East west, Ha'amonga, part of it is in the north, half of it is to the south.
Mm.
I mean, once again, maybe we're beating a dead horse here, but hard for me to accept the position that our brother or sister, I don't know where Polylore is from, but I'll share the screen, come back to it here. Hard for me to accept this position that the Ha'amonga is from Ha'amoa.
Yeah.
Anyways, any kind of closing thoughts on that?
No, I don't think we're beating it like a dead horse to it because one, this is just all part of the conversations and more, and the more people like Polylore and other people in the Polynesian community start just sharing their ideas, the more we can just keep discussing. Because right, we're
Mhm.
all just trying to pick at it, just trying to have at least an understanding on the origin and the reading of the constellation of our ancestors in the past. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and
good discussion.
and I really want to frame this because coming back to where did the idea that somehow the Tongans believed that the Ha'amonga was called Alotolu? Because a missionary who stopped in Samoa in the
Mm,
1800s also stopped in Tonga. In theory, asked someone in Tonga, "What do you guys call the Ha'amonga?" The Tongan guy or gal says Alotolu. That gets recorded, and all of a sudden, people say that's the reality, right?
correct,
Just
correct.
it's the same scenario with, hey, how was Tonga discovered? Some person, say it was the Tui Tonga.
Went to Fushi Fonua in
Yes, and that's
Manua.
how Tonga was discovered. And I'm like, see, you see why we're hesitant to just fully accept only oral history or even someone's quote unquote record of oral history. This whole situation with the Ha'amonga and the Alotolu is a prime example of why we have to have these conversations. We have to dig into it. And when we dig into it, it really matters where you get your information. And then once again, to reinforce, this is why Tevita Fale's work is so critical. He spoke with not just one of the people who held this knowledge. We're talking about multiple people who were in the right place, who had access to the knowledge. And Tevita Fale had the opportunity to be inspired and educated through that process of understanding not only our history but the astronomical knowledge that our ancestors had.
Yeah.
Um, yes,
Yeah. Nothing to add there. That was perfect, Dora.
perfect. With that being said, we're going to go on to part two of our program here. And
Ooh.
what we're
What's
going
happening with our relatives in Samoa?
yes, what we're going to do is we're going to start with, let me put this on mute so we can get through the commercial in the background. But looks like our sisters in Samoa are having some challenges politically, or this is normal. We have those same
Yep.
things in Tonga. This is just part of politics. Um, but what's kind of your understanding, Masi, of what's going on in Samoa politics right now?
So pretty much, right? The Fiame, who is the prime minister of Samoa right now, she's been kicked out by the party that she represents that got her elected to become the prime minister of Samoa. So she's been kicked out with other, I think the other five of
Mm,
her followers. So apparently, because she's kicked out, and Samoa's constitution states that you have to belong to a political party
have to
to
be
remain in
affiliated with a party.
affiliated, yes, with the party. So it's kind of in limbo because this is kind of the first thing this has happened. So right now Samoa's in a dilemma, and they need to figure out if they're going to have a snap election because the election's only next year, or if they're going to just figure out that the prime minister and her minority followers can at least just stick it out with the party that she got kicked out from until the next election. So that's kind of where things are at. And the reason why Fiame was kicked out is because one of her cabinet ministers was actually under investigation. But we all know how that works. We don't know. We all know the because the police indict
Politics,
you
yeah,
means that you're guilty. That happened with Trump, and look what happened. It was all a sham. So we don't,
all fake news.
and right, right. So Fiame asked him to step down as minister, and he's like saying, "No, I'm not, because this is a sham stuff that the police is going after me." So she dismissed him, but he's the party chair, where the prime minister represents, and then he has the majority of his party, and they kicked her out. So this is where that's where it's all happened, and that's right now we're just in a stalemate, not knowing if it's going to be a snap election or if they can at least reconcile their differences and maybe just stick it out till next year. So very interesting dynamics in
Yeah.
Samoa.
So basically, what we're seeing is a political situation that the Ha'amoa, with the constitution or political structure, hasn't faced before, right? So now they're like, oh, okay, well, what happens when there's this type of politics where there's fracturing in the leading party with the leadership and the
Correct.
PM? So they're going to have to navigate that. Um, I'm going to share this guy. I haven't really listened to this video, but this guy right here, I like a lot of his commentary. He seems like a pretty intelligent guy. Don't always agree, but it looks like he had made some comments where he felt like there was a lot of corruption
Mm.
going on, and hopefully there's not too many F bombs here because he likes to say that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, he's definitely those people, those characters.
yeah. So we're gonna play it because it looks like a lot of people were giving him heat for his position on what was going on in Hamoa. But we'll just kind of listen to his thought and his position, and then maybe do some reactions to it, and then we'll
Yeah,
go on to our next topic.
let's go.
Really good response. I see a lot of Facebook pages have gone up already. The HIPP ones saying some really derogatory stuff, but
Oh, I just noticed. Look at what's next to him.
Yes, Farekaba, Farekaba.
Hey,
So
Mari,
for those, yes, for those who kind of followed us, we've had a relative of ours, Toko Fare. That's his kind of Farekaba that he's selling. So yeah, if you are around in New Zealand, man, get a
check
taste
it
of
out.
balled up kava. It's it's refrigerated and it's easy to carry on. So yeah, you can always get some here in New Zealand if you're interested.
10
Yeah.
4.
So it goes in some way. But there's a dude in the comments. I don't know if you've seen it. He's going on about Sam's bail. Have you seen that one?
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes,
he's
yes.
putting up the Samoan Observer one and saying,
right.
"Oh, Eliota's mother is the lawyer for Sam," and and trying to tell everyone. Yeah, everyone knows, bro. It's in the Samoa Observer. You know, that's the most popular newspaper in Samoa. It's no secret. Now, it's really good that you brought that up because Sam is in jail. Sam, remember, is the witness of the hit and run, and he is in jail because he tried to tell the media who he saw
Oh.
did it.
Have you heard of that, Masi? I did see
No.
this. This is kind of interesting. I did see like a video or a comment about this. So apparently there was a hit and run in Hamoa.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
There was a witness who videoed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he takes it to the police and kind of like the FBI here. This is what's funny. We used to think
Yeah.
this was only in like third world countries.
Movie.
We
Yeah.
now I know America is just like that too. Corruption is corruption, wherever it is.
Yeah.
So this witness goes and gives his phone to the police. It like the phone disappears. And then somehow, like he's saying here, the witness goes to jail.
Jeez, that's
But-
crazy.
so the allegation is the video was showing that it was a member of parliament that did the
Oh,
hit and run.
hit and run, and
And
from
so
the
the po-
HRPP side.
Yes. Some I don't know which one, right? But
Okay.
but it sounds like HRPP is involved in a lot of the institutions in Hamoa. Like they have a lot of control.
Well, because they've been there for like you're talking about
Forever.
20, 25 years.
Okay.
They've been there
okay.
for so long.
So they're entrenched in the institutions there.
Mm.
So that's where he's going with right now. That's the story. Because I remember hearing this. I thought, oh, if we have time on one of the shows, we'll talk about it. But that's what he's referencing right there is a hit and run. And the witness, I think, is the one getting punished. And they find out later they're thinking that they're protecting a politician.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, and the person who he said he saw did it charged him with criminal libel. Now he is in jail because of the charge. They haven't even had the case for it.
Right.
You understand that? So Article 9 of the Constitution says you are innocent until proven guilty. Right. Now he has been in jail since January of last year.
A year.
A whole year, more than a year.
Wow.
The actual case for it is in May. Okay, so this guy bringing that up and saying it's like it's some sort of fucking awesome discovery
Revelation.
that revelation that he's made. I'm glad you fucking brought it up. It's in the Observer, everyone knows, but look at it, right? And remember, like I was saying, this case you will learn how deep corruption and everything is. So this is a decision made by the Supreme Court to put this man in jail over charges, not of the case.
Wow.
Okay, so you have a right to a fair trial, and it has to be in reasonable time. It's been over a year. He's been in jail for the whole time, and they still haven't had
Like
the trial
January
yet.
6th here in the
And
US.
remember, it's for criminal libel. It's for statements.
It's not for the original.
It's not for hit and run. It's for
Right,
criminal libel. Now, here's the worst part: is the maximum for criminal libel is imprisonment for 3 months.
Wow.
It is amazing.
So this is to punish him. This is to make a statement.
Because he recorded.
Yeah.
Because he recorded
Because
the incident.
yeah. Any thoughts on that, Masi, while we get through the commercial?
No, it's unfortunate. I'm also learning a little bit more about the HRPP, right? And how they do things. To me, it's interesting. It's interesting, with the dynamics that's going on. Me personally, I used to be neutral to it, and I've kind of recently just kind of gone to the HRPP side. And this is my reason. This is before I've kind of, know all of these dynamics and stuff. So one time the leader of the Fast Party, La Uli, he's the one that's kind of been indicted, right?
Mhm.
He comes to New Zealand and he comes and endorses this person is already passed away, but Official Collins, who was a Labor guy running for Auckland mayor, and he's very Labor, right? They're super
Far
lefty,
left. Yeah.
far left. He comes and endorses him, so I was like, dude, that is so weird that somebody from another party that's in government, right, come and endorse. He
Trying
lost
to
and stuff,
get
but I was
the Ha'amoa
trying to
vote.
get yeah. And then to me, HRPP, it's either maybe because HRPP has probably been in the game a lot longer with politics. When you deal with politics outside your sphere of influence, it's better not to do it at somewhere else. And HRPP has never really done that when they have other Samoans in other countries running. They've never endorsed them in their political campaigns or anything. But Fast was doing that for this guy. So ever since then, I've had a bad taste for the Fast parties because I was like, they were endorsing all these, even though they were Samoans, but they were super left labor guys. I'm like, dude, and I really hate labor here in
Mm,
New Zealand. So I'm like,
as it is,
ever since
yeah.
then, that was just my opinion. Never liked Fast, but it's good to see it that somebody that's very familiar in Samoa that HRPP with how deep, and a lot of those people have been appointed by HRPP in these institutions, the
A little too
police and whatever.
comfortable.
So, and yes, and I can understand this whole dynamic of the corruption and not doing what you're supposed to do. So, it's politics is very messy like that, though.
Yeah, not
That's
hundred
just
percent.
that's just that's just me and my spill on that with my personal
Okay.
experience.
Yeah, this is interesting. So let's see. What's this guy's name again?
He's a
He would play for the
Elliot
Mansamoa.
Sapolo. Yes, Elliot.
Mm,
No, is it Elliot Sapolo? I know he's a Sapolo.
okay.
Oh, I can't hear it. Tua.
Oh yeah, I put it on mute. My bad.
Already done over a year and a half. By when May comes, he's already done a year and 5 months.
That's messed up.
And the maximum
Yeah,
punishment
that is
is
messed
3
up.
months. You see how fucked up this thing is?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. Look into that case. I'm glad you've been telling everybody. Here's the link to the bail. Look at it. Like, this is pathetic. It's really stupid. Now, the old court system, you could appeal to the Court of Appeal, and what the Court of Appeal would be a group of Balangi judges. Well, not Balangi judges, but foreign judges.
Yep.
Okay, people judges from New Zealand and Australia mainly. Okay, yes, there might be a Samoan judge like Ida Malosi, but they usually send over Balangi judges, right? Now, you let's say you appeal the Supreme Court because they're the ones who put him in jail for over a year.
That's terrible.
Not for the charge.
Yeah.
Sorry, not for the actual case and being guilty, but for a charge, something that the police have said.
Mm.
So let's say you do the criminal libel, you appeal the Supreme Court, and then you get these Balangi judges, right? Now, these judges coming from Australia and New Zealand, right? Criminal libel doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So they would come over and face this case. Now, do you think they're going to interpret this and put some fucking insane punishment, right? And reject bail and slam him in prison for a year and 5 months for criminal libel that doesn't exist in their jurisdictions, right? They're going to look at it differently. This doesn't even exist in our jurisdictions. Okay, so a king's council, the top law.
That's weird.
Hmm.
So they have someone who doesn't understand the laws and jurisdiction of Ha'amoa to make those decisions.
When in the Court of Appeals, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Lawyers in the Commonwealth made a comment like bail should have been given. Okay, he should have been allowed out, but maybe the conditions be a bit restrictive. But it is insane to keep him in jail
Over a
and
year.
the constitutional rights. The Constitution is the top law of Samoa, right? He is entitled to be treated as innocent until proven guilty. How do you put an innocent person in prison for a year and 5 months before even a case has been done? Before trial. That's not a presumption of innocence. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So in terms of this whole thing will reveal the police, it'll reveal the Supreme Court, it'll reveal the media, it'll
the
show
corruption
you
he's saying.
what's going on in Samoa. And so that's to that dude who just keeps posting up as if that's something amazing that he's discovered.
Oh, glad he can read.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
I was
interesting.
gonna say too. Did he say you have to prove your innocence? because in America, you're trying to you're trying to prove that they're guilty. Isn't that how America kind of
No,
functions
he
with?
he was saying it's the same as here in America.
Oh,
You're innocent
okay,
until proven guilty.
proven guilty.
But
Okay, gotcha.
apparently, this guy, it's guilty until proven innocent, but they won't
Uh,
even give him a chance. He's just saying it's backwards. When the Samoan Constitution says, number
and
one, the penalty is
he's
what, 3 months?
3 months, and he's been there over a year.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah,
you know
that
it's
is
purely
crazy.
political, and it's
Yeah,
purely to punish him, but make
it
a
must be
make a
some.
lesson of him.
It must be somebody high up with the HRPP that had that hit and run. That had
Yeah.
that hit and run case.
Here's a comment here from Straightforward. What the hell did I just stumble into? I don't know. Straightforward, man. Well, welcome. Good to see
Welcome,
you at the
Polynesian
live
Nice
digital
Podcast.
conversation. Yes, welcome, welcome. Welcome again to Tevita Tavi.
Hey, what's
You're
up, Davi?
innocent when you have money. That's like what did they say in Aladdin? Right? He who has the gold makes the rules.
Hmm. That's true. You can't go wrong with that. That's for sure. That's
Oh,
for sure.
TK, that is on our list. We will be touching
We'll get
on
there.
the
Yep.
Miss Pacific pageant here in a little bit because that's very interesting as well. Any closing comments, Masi, on Samoa?
Ooh,
And if not, we'll go into Cook
yeah,
Islands. The Cook Islands has had some interesting news.
yes. For me, Samoan politics, it's interesting that Tuila Epa is still gonna stand for the HRPP for the next coming election. I would think they would have somebody after him because my man is hitting 80 something. But
Mm.
it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I already gave my spill just regarding my own personal experience, but it'll be interesting. We'll see how this goes. And yeah, I had a funny story that a lot of the people in Samoa that I went and visit, a lot of them kind of gave the chance to fast, and some of them are thinking, they're not too sure if they're gonna cast their vote for fast again or go back to HRPP. So, because the thing about HRPP, even though they've been there so much longer, there was a lot of stability, even though there was things probably going on. But Samoa under the HRPP, especially in the last 10, 20 years, they made some dramatic changes. I don't know if you remember too. Upolu Savai used to be like under American Samoa in the sense that they would go in those days. They would also drive on the same side, like the
Yeah,
American
they
side.
switched the road.
So
Yeah,
he made some big political
practical, very
moves,
practical
prac-
changes.
practical changes that's really facilitated and really moved the Samoan economy in a more growth and growing sphere. So, you know, people still remember that, and also the Samoa has built a brand new airport. It's really nice. If you go to
Mm.
Samoa now, the airport's really nice. Like the HRPP, even though they had their fallings and like what Sapolu said, they're not perfect. Wherever there's power, there's gonna be people who wanna make it corrupt and do it really squeeze that power as long as they
Yeah,
want, even whatever it
that's
takes.
human
So
nature.
it's
Yeah.
human nature, but HRPP infrastructure and what they've done in the past 10 years, people haven't forgotten it. So, and I'm trying to think, and this is the tough thing about politics, right? If you don't have stability, you have like what we're having now, La Uli, the same party fighting against another party member, Fiame. Then all those resources and time goes into that infighting.
You
Tonga
lose
went
all that
through it.
momentum.
You
Yep.
lose the momentum to kind of build infrastructure to kind of really grow the country. So, and I think people are not fond of that, fond of that. And that's the thing I admire about the HRPP. When Tuila Epa or somebody's there, they tend to not fight each other and they really focus on building the country. But at the same time,
Yeah.
they're not perfect either. But that's just my spill from
Yeah.
my outside view of Samoa's politics.
No, and this is not something that's unique to Ha'amoa, right? I mean, even
Yeah,
in Tonga, we saw certain shifts when a certain cabinet was in. They did a lot of work, right? Build infrastructure, had a really positive impact on the daily lives of the kingdom, the citizens of the kingdom. And then you have a switch, and then all of a sudden, nothing happens, and then there's infighting. You have votes of no confidence.
yeah,
Whether you agree or disagree with the vote of no confidence, the impact is the same.
Yeah.
there's no momentum in helping the people. And that's what
Yeah.
the government should be doing, is like you're saying, building infrastructure, making decisions that give more economic opportunity, more stability, and improve the quality of life of the citizens. And so it happens in Tonga quite a bit as well. And on the next topic, our brothers and sisters in the Cook Islands have also had some interesting things in the news. Let's see.
This is funny. This cracks me
Yeah.
out.
Let's see if we can play this video. If not, we'll kind of skim through the article.
Okay.
Jergens Natural Glow Sun
Oh,
Drops.
damn.
Just drop, mix with my lotion, and glow.
Yeah, no
Very
tour, because this has been
Exclusive
playing in
details
the back.
of a deal
Oh,
that could
there we go.
What was that?
No,
Masi?
this has been playing this whole week. They've been talking about that. This has been in the news and stuff, and it just cracks me up because I'll share my thoughts after this video, but it's so funny
Okay.
what the cookies are doing.
shatter New Zealand's close relationship with a Pacific neighbour. The Cook Islands is set to strike a major partnership agreement with China, causing deep concern. The move would be a big win for Beijing, which is trying to exert its influence and power across the Pacific. It's also taken our government by surprise, a potential breach of constitutional arrangements between the Cooks and Aotearoa. This year, the Cook Islands celebrates 60 years of self-governance and free association with New Zealand. That means it's free to make its own moves on policies and partnerships at home and abroad, while enjoying the benefits of a New Zealand passport, citizenship, along with substantial investment and aid.
I didn't know that.
But that comes with
I didn't know that they get automatic New Zealand benefits like that. I thought they were their own, but they get, so they're like almost still in a sense,
Like
they're kind
American
of like
Samoa.
Puerto Rico and
American Samoa.
American Samoa. Okay.
Except American Samoans can't vote. Can Puerto Ricans vote? No.
Yes. Well,
Okay,
I thought they did. I thought they did. I thought American Samoa also does for the primaries and stuff. No?
I don't think so. As a national, they call it, they're just considered national citizens. They can't vote, from my understanding.
Interesting. Okay. Learning something new every day.
with caveats. Under a long-standing agreement, the nations must cooperate and consult on any issues of defence and security and advise each other of any risks to either state. But the Cook's lack of openness about its shift towards China is setting alarm bells ringing. Here's Pacific correspondent Barbara Drever, exclusive report.
The Cook Islands is about to sign a big deal with a new friend.
We must look at other ways to ensure that we have a sustainable economy, and partnering with like-minded countries in this regard is going to be important for us.
Do you
to
think
maintain
China's a
our
like-minded
prosperity
country?
levels. In terms of economic growth and the prosperity of our peoples, we share those common interests.
China's Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs Ma seen here in December. The Cook Islands thanking China for the multi-million-dollar water project, despite leaks which led to 17 kilometres being dug up and replaced.
China stuffed up your water project. I remember clearly you saying that you were seeking compensation from them. Why celebrate that?
This, let's be clear, the disagreement we had, the arbitration we had was with a contractor, not with the Chinese government. This was a contractual matter that was resolved and has resulted in us now having having a very, very good water project, far better than what we had before.
It was resolved by New Zealand.
Yes, with the help of our third partner in the trilateral arrangement.
The Cook Islands' third partner is feeling like a third wheel, that agreements in our long-realm relationship are being ignored.
What clarity? And at this point in time, we have none.
Was
No
your guy?
clarity at all as to what
That's
this
my
means.
guy, New
The
Zealand
Cook
first.
Islands is entitled to make those decisions themselves, but we've got past arrangements, constitutional arrangements, which require consultation with us. And dare I say it, China knows that. So if there's to be a change, then let us put our cards on the table so we all know what we've required to do and we all know what we're dealing with.
Just last week, Chinese ambassador to the Cook Islands arrived to finalise a partnership agreement that Prime Minister Mark Brown is expected to sign in Beijing. He leaves with a delegation on Friday. The agreement includes fisheries, maritime cooperation, which involves boosting the Cook Islands inter-island ferry service, and deep-sea mining.
I think once our agreement is signed, it's going to be available for everybody to see. I know that New Zealand and Australian concerns centre around security matters, and I guess they bring up the issue of the Solomon Islands signing an agreement that allows policing. Our agreement doesn't have any of those aspects in it.
New Zealand believes the Cook Islands is not acting in accordance with its constitutional partnership arrangement, where consultation in times like this is mandatory.
No, absolutely not. No. I believe our officials have been in discussions with New Zealand officials.
Plans for a Cook Islands passport is also still on the table, despite New Zealand saying it would need to become fully
Might as well be
independent for
independent,
this to
fully
happen.
fledged
We were
independent.
caught
Might
by
as well.
surprise when this news was broken by One News about our high-level discussion, which I thought was a high-level diplomatic discussion with leaders.
Very
to be
interesting.
open, frank in our discussions. For it to be brought out into the public before we've had a time to inform our public, I thought was a breach of our political diplomacy.
The standoff continues, threatening the future of one of our longest and closest relationships.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. What are your thoughts, Mr. Atero?
Ooh, so for me, Tua, how would it feel like if the governor of American Samoa goes and does his own negotiation with China? How would that go? Like, to me, that's how it seems like to me.
Yeah, to me,
Right?
it's saying you're up to something
Yeah.
and you're trying to hide something from me.
Yes. And so, but here's my thing, Tua. Just knowing, I've been in New Zealand for 7 years now. New Zealand leadership is very soft, right? And I just feel like this guy is like, New Zealand, they're softies. I can do whatever I want. They're gonna come and
Yeah.
they'll run their mouth and say this, that, but I'm gonna do what I want. But at the same time, I'll still enjoy their benefits of still having access to their, tourism really helps Cook Islands. They have the New Zealand citizenship, so they get access of benefits and stuff. So
Yeah.
to me, just knowing how New Zealand do things, with the whole Pacific warm greetings kind of attitude, right? And I'm a guy that says, you know what?
Don't want to
I'm
offend
gonna,
anyone.
yes, I wanna,
Yeah.
I'll jump on this, but at the same time, at the same time, he's just saying, China's gonna throw in a lot of money. We do this partnership, it's gonna facilitate our economic growth. He's having them to do kind of get access to their fisheries and also some sea mining that's gonna grow their economy and provide more money that's going to help with infrastructure to build like I said, he's the one in charge, and he's going to try to build what's good for the cookies. But at the same time, he understands New Zealand's leadership. It's very soft. Even when you get caught up in doing a mistake, the consequences is very soft. That even the
Yeah.
crimes, if you do crimes here in New Zealand, crimes are very soft
Slap
on
on the
criminals.
wrist. That's
Slap
it.
on the wrist. So, hey, to me, the cookie is just doing what he wants to do. At the same
Yeah.
time, he just understands how New Zealand do things. It's a very soft approach. So he's just doing what's best for what he thinks is for the people. And he looks like, and the thing is, it seems like he's not afraid if they have to go independent. Because if he's thinking
That's
doing
what I was going to
passports,
say. Yeah.
if he's thinking of passports and it gets pretty aggressive, and if China really puts up to me, it shows me the money maybe New Zealand has put into Cook Islands is maybe being pennies compared to what China is willing to
Oh,
either double or
can't
triple.
compete with China on that.
Yes. So, and if it needs to go independent, and that's the good, right? And that's the thing about, I admire the Cook Islands Prime Minister. He's not afraid if he's gonna step up, because, like I said, anyone can step up to New Zealand. That's my opinion, right?
No,
So
I agree.
I don't know.
I
That's just
agree.
me and my thoughts. I don't. What's you, Tua? You're kind of from
No,
afar.
100%.
And what you hear?
Yeah, for
regarding the
me,
Cook
my
Islands.
perspective, it looks like the Cook Islands wants to break away from
Mm.
this relationship,
Mm.
right? And it sounds like this is the classic teenager who wants to have their own rules and do whatever they want, but guess what? You're still living in mom and dad's house. So a decision needs to be made. Like you were saying, mom and dad need to lay the law. It looks like, you try to give your children some freedom, help them make decisions on their own. But, you don't have necessarily a solid line, but you also know there's an unwritten line, right? An unspoken of line that's like, if you go and talk to certain people about, hey, I want to go live in your apartment, I want to. When they start talking like that, then the parent needs to say, "Oh, okay, so what are you still doing in my house? Maybe, right? Or maybe I shouldn't be supporting you with this other stuff if you're saying that's not enough for you and you have someone else." So I don't know. To me, and it sounds to me like the Cook Islands are not afraid.
Yeah,
Right? They're not afraid. Right now, they're not afraid. Whether it's rightfully so or not, they don't fear New Zealand. They don't act like they need New Zealand, and they're making moves as if they're planning to move out. Like you say, they're talking about our own passport. They're talking about deep sea mining, building their infrastructure. You do that kind of stuff away from quote unquote Big Brother because you're planning to get away from Big Brother. So for me, New Zealand, this is not a time for diplomatic being nice. This is a time you gotta maybe adopt a little Uncle Donald's approach of like, okay, if you wanna be a big boy, big girl, well, you better act like one, and then start saying maybe it's time for you to move on. And but then you have to take into this is where I think it's funny. Because military wise, what is New Zealand gonna do?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? And then Cook Islands, like they're the security wise, are they gonna? They don't feel like New Zealand has the capacity militarily to even
do
maybe
anything.
defend them where they're at on the islands, because New Zealand's military has been very, very small
Weak
and limited, very weak sauce. Shoot, their boat got sunk by a coral reef. It wasn't in battle, right? So like
Mussy, why you gotta do the New Zealand military like that for? They sunk by a coral reef.
Because to be honest, I think the Tongan military could take over New Zealand's military too. That's what, right? That's how weak the New Zealand military is at the moment. So Cook Islands just thinking, dude, if we can just have a positive and good relationship and a working relationship with China, they're a lot more reliable military wise, and not only that, their amount of funding to fund our infrastructure. Because to me, it just says New Zealand has not invested much money and security to make Cook Islands feel like they value their partnership. That's the thing, right? And then New Zealand's soft leadership approach and very weak diplomacy, and this is not only for this government. This is many years. Cook Islands are just thinking, you know what? We'll just go and we're gonna do this and see how long
we can get away with it.
Get away, yeah.
So what you're saying, Mussy, is the Cook Islands sees New Zealand as a beta, and they're like, "Hey, beta male, we're gonna push the line, and you know what? I'm gonna bring an alpha male to the table and see how's the beta male gonna act. Is the beta male gonna try and act and step up like an alpha, or are they gonna be the standard beta male? And we'll see what happens."
Yes, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Because for New Zealand to really, it's not gonna be. New Zealand's not gonna have a bigger checkbook. New Zealand's not gonna have the military. New Zealand's not gonna have the international political influence. Really, what New Zealand's gonna have to bank on is the relationship and the history between the two countries
and cultural ties.
Cultural ties. Are you gonna be loyal to me? You know, are you gonna just leave me? Are you gonna be a gold digger? Cook Islands, or are you gonna be loyal to me? But then Cook Islands is like, should I be loyal to you? You don't seem to care much about me, and blah blah blah. Like you're saying, you've kind of left me alone and don't give me attention. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
very interesting.
New Zealand is gonna be this is bad, but I always, when we grew up in Tonga, I would always get so frustrated with New Zealand, and it's all New Zealand Rugby Union, right?
Yeah.
My frustrations with New Zealand in general is how New Zealand Rugby Union treated the Pacific Island teams, right? The smaller ones and the players, and how they always made the rules work against Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, right? All the rules were always, because New Zealand was so influential in New Zealand in the world rugby.
Pretty much, yeah.
And the rules. And so for me, I always get a little giggle when New Zealand gets a taste of their own medicine, right? Now that Richie Mo'unga says, no, I'm going to stay in Japan, not come back to New Zealand, it makes me smile, right? When Charles Piutau decided to leave in his prime, right, to leave and go to England, made me
Yeah.
smile because deep down inside, I'm like, Chai Albito. Now
Mm.
you get to feel a little bit how Tonga, Fiji, and Ha'amoa felt for decades. But I'm still a big fan of the Warriors. My exception is the Warriors. I love the Warriors. I think they have an awesome brand. They have an awesome team in history and culture there. But anyways,
No,
next.
no,
Oh, go
I'll
ahead,
just
Messi.
add on to that. When we're talking about New Zealand rugby, I don't know if you heard, but they're actually going to trial with their main sponsorship on their
Yes,
on their shirt. So, things are not going so well financially for the New
Rugby
Zealand All Blacks
Union.
and that
Yeah.
rugby union, and it's just I feel like it's folding in, man. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, and this
sure.
is the I know we've mentioned this before in other podcasts, but this is why I laugh when I hear people from New Zealand and World Rugby. It's like, oh, we're gonna go take over American sports with rugby union. I'm like, hey, you can't even make it successful in a country that loves rugby,
Mm,
right? You can't even make it successful there, and you think you're gonna come and compete with the NFL and come and compete with all
the
these
NBA,
other sports, the NBA, Major
MLB.
League Baseball. Um, I don't know. Very, very interesting to me. Um, but yeah, it always makes, unfortunately, right? Because you shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't find quote unquote joy with other people's struggles. But I just can't help it, right? I'm just like, "Hi, Albito. How does it feel? Huh? How does it feel, Aotearoa?" But
I
anyways,
tend to I
go
tend
ahead.
I tend to cheer for the All Blacks all the time when they play against Australia, South Africa, because they tend to have more of the Polynesians in it. And to me, this is what I think. The other countries are all doing it the same thing. So I feel like now that I've kind of been in New Zealand, see how the other countries do it. Australia does it, South Africa does it, England does it, and New Zealand. I feel like they could. The thing is, they're not gonna step in the risk it to do something different. So they just fall in line with the other rugby union.
Maybe,
That's just my
maybe.
opinion.
Yeah.
And they
I
just
don't
play.
see
It's a big. This is what I see it, Tua. It's a big, good club with the union guys, and
good
they're
old
all just
boys, good old
good old
boys
boys
club.
clubs, just tapping shoulders and
Okay.
elbows with each other. That's how I
Maybe,
see it.
maybe I'm putting a little too much responsibility on New Zealand Rugby Union. Maybe, like I said, a lot of these ideas in my head were kind of cultivated from growing up in Tonga. I haven't really thought about it anymore. I just remember the feeling of like,
It's
I don't
because
like this.
yes, I think it's because New Zealand had the first pickings in the islands, but now it's starting to be everyone's on the same playing field and having that first pickings, and then New Zealand is not being as dominant as they used to be.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. All right. So I know one of the viewers had mentioned if we're going to get into one of the hottest topics right now in in our communities, and that is the Miss South Pacific. Masi, you want to give us a rundown of what you understand? Are you familiar with this story, Masi?
Yes, yes. Even
Kind
my
of give the
colleague.
context. Give the
Yeah.
context of what you're hearing in Aotearoa. You're a lot closer to it than me here in the States. I just purely social media. But what are you hearing on the ground over there?
So the top two contestants, Miss Samoa and Miss Tonga, and those were the top two, and they came to the final um, process to declare a winner. And apparently, it was like really unorganized, and it took a while for the judges to decide who was going to be crowned. And then there were circulation going around on social media that saw one of the judges ripped out something and then gave the another paper that had the winner that was Miss Samoa. And then there were some judges, I guess she was Tongan, went up and said that Miss Tonga
Yeah,
should have
Maata
won.
Mo'ungaloa, she was a Miss
Yes,
Heilala.
she was a Miss Hela, that Miss Tonga was supposed to win, and then she was kind of ranting on that, and then like the head judge, who is a Samoan, on his way out to the airport, got stopped by the Solomon Authority, got questioned about the pageant and how it was run, if it was You know, if it
Yeah,
was
wouldn't let him leave the country.
wouldn't let him leave, and then the country because they wanted to investigate if the pageant was done properly and stuff. But he ended up leaving after that. So this is all it happens. And apparently, Miss Tonga announced that even if there were stuff that happened that she was not supposed to,
She wouldn't accept the crown
she
anyway,
wouldn't accept
even
the
if they
crown.
tried to reverse it.
Reversed it. I was like, okay, all right.
That's
Well,
good for her.
yeah. To me, yeah, it's just it's a highly contested, I guess, event because it's kind of, you represent the entire Pacific. So yeah, that's just kind of my thing there, and I really don't know if I have no idea if if the if the contest was run with integrity or if there were some certain dealings that happened. I have no idea. Well, I don't know
Yeah.
about you, Tua, but what are
No,
your thoughts?
I don't have any idea. To me, this is something. I guess it's very typical of our people, right? This is something that we would have in Tonga when there's a competition in Tonga after the winner's name. Everybody says, "Oh, there was cheating," but yeah, like I was like, it's kind of funny to me because I was like, as much as things quote unquote change, they're still
Mm.
the same, right? Like this is like little squabbles you would think of, like, oh, remember when we were back in Tonga, we would always be arguing about, this guy used his cousin's birth certificate. He's actually 25, but he used his cousins to say he's 19.
That's
And
the one I
we
was
play,
thinking. A lot of
yeah,
the ones I've heard is the ones that under 18, and then you find out people are like 21, 22. They want to play because certain people come from Australia and New Zealand to recruit for their
scouting,
team.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or the other one is, the referee was a graduate of that high school and
Yeah.
just made terrible calls. You would think like money. I think this is an international competition. We would think
Yeah.
like maybe we would have done something at least like electronic or something that was transparent. So, but I think it's funny that they're like all pieces of paper. They're handing it to each other. They're telling it. And I was like, "Oye, pare, dama." I mean, this is
Mm,
interesting, or at least
mm.
make it in a way where it's like this doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But let's react to. Do you remember Kalafi Moala, Masi?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is Tavuli News? I don't know if this is from the Solomon Islands or Fiji or something or Papua, but they had a quick thing and they interview Kalafi Moala and they just kind of talk about the drama that's going on.
Okay.
Now, a senior Tongan journalist has voiced concerns over allegations circulating on social media following the Miss Pacific pageant in Honiara on Saturday night. Kalafi Moala, publisher of Talanoa o Tonga, says the claims have left many Tongans seeking answers from the pageant committee.
The issue here in Tonga is not so much whether who won. The fact that Miss Samoa was crowned Miss Pacific Islands, that's not an issue. I think many Tongans respond well to that. But when the allegation starts rising, that's where people are really reacting.
Miss Tonga was named first runner-up to Miss Samoa in the competition. However, shortly after the results were announced, social media erupted with allegations of foul play, sparking controversy amongst pageant followers. Speaking via Zoom in an interview with Tavuli News, Moala says these claims are concerning.
Whether it's just rumors, whether there was actual cheating that took place, I think it is in the responsibility of the organizers and indeed the judging panel to make a public statement. And there hasn't been an official statement. And I think that's very, very poor management and unacceptable. I think most people in Tonga are waiting for a statement to come from the organizers or at least from the judges.
Moala says he sympathizes with the 8 contestants who took part, as the controversy now risks overshadowing their efforts. He is urging the pageant organizers to address the issue transparently, warning that failure to do so could damage the integrity of the competition in the future.
It is sad because the pageant, the Miss Pacific Islands pageant, is such a tremendous event that could really help and build up in terms of the status and the kind of things for Pacific women and especially young girls that are emerging into adulthood. It's very sad that this has happened, and of course there are questions that come up of why islands not participating. If these things are not corrected or clarified, Tonga may not participate in the next pageant.
Despite the concerns, Moala congratulated Honiara for hosting a successful event that drew significant interest from Tonga.
It was wonderful. Solomons did a very bold thing in hosting the pageant and keeps the Solomon Islands in the news in terms of being a very key Pacific Island nation in determining our unity, our oneness, and development and moving forward in the Pacific Islands.
Kalafi Moala, a respected journalist from Tonga, speaking to Tavuli News via Zoom from Nuku'alofa.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Masi? What are your thoughts on that?
I did look on the how was the Miss Pacific, because there was really no Miss. Was there a Miss Pacific when you were growing up, Tua? This is relatively new.
It was called Miss South Pacific or something. Like, I think Maata Mo'ungaloa, the one judge that kind of made the thing, I think she won it, and I think Tessie Toluka won it, but it was a different name. I don't think it was MPI. I think it's changed its name maybe once or twice. But I mean, I wouldn't say I'm heavily involved in it, but I'm somewhat familiar with it.
Because I did read some stuff that the Miss Pacific was actually funded and developed by the Samoan government. So I don't know if there was some, certain slight to that. That maybe the judge. To me, the best way moving forward probably is to have people that maybe have some maybe different judges that maybe who are non from the islands, or I don't know. I'm just trying to think. Probably that would be fair, right? It's really to me it would be fair to have somebody that really doesn't have a bone in the game in judging the contestants, especially having maybe like somebody, because I didn't see a Miss Fiji, so maybe have a Fijian, someone from Fiji there, Tuvalu, just somewhere in the Pacific that didn't make the cut to the Miss South
No
Pacific.
skin in the game.
No skin in the game. Let them become the judges, and I think it will go smoothly there. It's difficult when you have a Samoan judge, a Samoa judge, have a Tonga judge, and then you have another judge. Like it can be kind of messy and stuff, even though you might not be non-biased or whatever. But it just removes that away. Especially that's another critical thing that I've heard in this segment, Tua. There's been no announcement to kind of.
That to me is the biggest mistake. Yes.
Yes. Just to say if there was, and to me, when they don't announce and sort it out, even though maybe they did things right, but maybe there were certain things that happened
we can do
that
better
they
next
can't
time
explain.
around.
But yeah, that's just my thoughts on there, Tua. But
no, I agree with Kalafi Moala. I think the big thing here, because the fact that the pageant organizers didn't say something, it feeds into the accusations, right? If they came out and said, hey, look, no, here's the process, we confirmed it, or they said, oh yeah, no, this is the right winner, we now see that there's ways we can improve, so there's no miscommunication in the future, but they just let it fester and it just got worse and worse and worse. And honestly, it's not that big of a deal, right? For us, for everyone, it doesn't matter. I saw a lot of people like, oh, Miss Samoa, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Miss Tonga, blah, blah, blah. Dude, for all of us, it really doesn't impact our lives, right? If it was Samoa who won or Solomon Islands, it really doesn't matter. You know who really suffers? Is the girls who competed. That's what suffers the most, because now Miss Pacific Islands, she's going to have that hanging over her head now, right? For her whole time.
It'll be very difficult when she does, because she represents the Pacific. When she goes to Tonga, what's the reaction and kind of thing she probably will get when she gets to Tonga? It's probably not going to be positive, because this wasn't been sorted out. So it's going to be hard for her job as the face of the Miss South Pacific, because their job at the end is to unite all of
The
Polynesia, the
region.
Pacific.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah. And so that's why I think it's funny hearing everybody on social media how this is so bad for them. It's like, dude, it's not going to impact my life, not going to impact your life, but it will have an impact on the girls' lives. And, I'm a father of daughters. If one of my kids ever want to get involved in something like that, but there's no reliable competition, well,
yeah,
that's like Kalafimwala said, that's less opportunity
for the
for
women.
Polynesian. So
Yeah.
it really is just kind of unfortunate. We, hopefully they come out. I don't care if it's already way too late. They need to come out with a statement. They just need to explain what happened and then say, hey, in the future, this is what we're going to do to ensure this doesn't happen again. Because, Miss Tonga, credit to her, I think that was a fantastic response, right? Where she's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Even if they were to try and reverse it, I wouldn't accept it. To me, that's her way of saying, let's just move forward, right?
Yeah.
Going back won't help anyone. It's done. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was thinking too that there, I think that person, that the Samoan judge that was held up in the airport, he's kind of said that there were no like cheating and something that was going on. He kind of addressed that, but there has been nothing by the South Pacific Committee as a whole to come out and say and address it. It's only been he or her said from each individual judge speaking independently with the news.
Well, and that's the challenge is, according to the accusation, which pretty much comes from Mata Mo'ongaloa, and not directly from her mouth, but supposedly people who spoke with her, right, is that the other judges voted for Tonga, and that Tonga won 3-2. And so that's why it's important for the organization to come out, right?
Yes.
And even if they just came out and said that is incorrect, the vote was 3-2. That's, you know what I mean? Just to say that's the final decision. We're moving forward. We're going to look into this further. But the fact they haven't said anything, it kind of makes people think, maybe it's true. Maybe it's true, the accusations that's going on.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Anything else you want to add to that, Mas?
Nope. I think we've kind of settled that. I do think they should get. Here's the 4 judges I'm thinking, Tua. I didn't see a Miss Fiji. Have a Fijian there. I didn't see a Miss Maori. Have a Maori over there. Have a Hawaiian there. There's so many people in the Pacific, and maybe like a New Caledonian or a Vanuatu that will settle all these things with these whole bias of like trying to.
He said, she said. Yeah.
Yes. Get the ones who have no bone in the game. Let them be the judges for the next one, so we can still hold up the integrity of the competition.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. It doesn't seem like there's much of an investigation going on. And even then, what kind of investigation? What do we have? Like
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to throw that much.
Pageant conspiracy theory investigator. I mean, they stopped the guy from leaving the airport, right? That's about it.
Yeah.
Maybe they asked him a few questions before they said, okay, you can get on your, and that was the end of the investigation.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to pour that much resources for the pageantry investigation.
maybe China is going to fund that investigation, and then New Zealand's going to come in. They're going to rescue the warship that sunk in the coral reef.
Yeah.
To come to the Solomon Islands and enforce New Zealand superiority. Oh, man. That's hilarious. All right. With that being said, we got one more. Let's see. Where are we?
What do we have next?
What we have is some U.S. politics real quick. And a historical moment for Polynesians in general.
Top dog, pretty much. Top Polynesian dog.
Well, and before we move on, congratulations to Miss Samoa, who is now
congratulations.
Miss Pacific Islands. At the end of the day, We're excited.
Samoa.
Hopefully they're able to fix this issue because come on, guys, man, we got to get out of the village squabbles, right?
Yeah.
Where one
I see.
village blames the other village. We got to get out of that and move forward.
Yeah. It's kind of like a thing to when you always talk about like the under 18 and stuff, the issues, and then like it's just like it just happens when you're in when you've been in the island for a long time. These are little things. Then it's mind blowing once you get to bigger countries, and the bigger country you get to, the more things like you say, oh man, the dynamics are just so much bigger than you know what I mean, to it, just how the world just follows like, hey, that's not a big deal. You save your energy on things that really matter to you. So yeah, it's just funny.
Yep. All right, let's watch this video and react to the positive situation here.
Yeas are 52, nays are 48. Nomination is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered, made, and laid upon the table, and the President will immediately notify of the Senate's actions.
Mr. President, I moved
Leader.
to waive the mandatory quorum with respect to the Kennedy nomination.
Is there objection? Without objection. The clerk will report the motion and invoke cloture.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the nomination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
That's going into Robert F. Kennedy. But the point is, Tulsi Gabbard is elected or confirmed.
Yes. She was appointed and then confirmed. Yeah.
Yes. She is, for all intents and purposes, is the most powerful Polynesian woman on the planet. More powerful
Polynesian person than probably
person on the planet. Most powerful Polynesian on the planet. More powerful than the whole state of New Zealand trying to put pressure on the Cook Islands for their Tulsi Gabbard going to the Cook Islands will have way more influence than Aotearoa going over there. But I mean, this is really cool, really powerful. You know, obviously she's of Samoan descent. This is kind of a side note, but there was a relative of hers that was killed in Ha'amoa.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like there was some kind of shoot. The only reason I know it's a relative of hers because when I saw a video, I guess two ladies were arguing. It was two ladies. One of it was Tulsi's grandmother or aunt or something like that. And one lady stabbed the other lady, believe it or not.
Dang, that's crazy.
And killed them. That is crazy. And the lady was like a professor at the Ha'amoa University or whatever. But anyways, really, really big deal. I mean, Tulsi going in there. Never would have thought this would happen, right? Just because Tulsi was on the Democratic side. I mean,
now she's Republican.
Now she's Republican. But this is really cool for the Polynesian people. This breaks us into another realm that Polynesians are getting into. Really cool, really exciting. And I think just once again, I think our people in general are having a huge impact in the world for such a small, you know,
not 1% of the U.S. population.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
So it's kind of really cool to see that Tulsi Gabbard's in there and that she's going to have that impact. You know, that really opens up minds for people. And I don't want to sound too woke here, right? To say, oh, it's, you know, we have to see someone of no, it's not that we have to see someone that looks like us, but seeing someone that looks like us or is us, more important, not just look like us, but is us in that position, it just changes the psyche, right? Yeah. It's not saying you can't do it, but it's like when someone broke the 4-minute mile for the first time, it was for forever. It was like impossible. But then once the first person did it, within like a year and a half, tons of people were breaking the 4-minute mile. Because why? Because now people see it. They're like, oh, it is possible. It can be done. And that's what I think for us makes a big difference. Oh, Yahweh, it looks like Slick Rick says, oh, Yahweh, Tulsi. It seems like Tulsi's pretty popular, not only with Slick Rick, but apparently Water Bears. Says Tulsi is my new Woman Crush Wednesday. That's why the girlfriend won't let you go anywhere, Water Bears. That kind of response. You're not going to get your visa to come out to the Kava session next time with those kind of comments. Malo, Water Bears.
Malo, Water Bears. No, Tua, it's pretty amazing that she is the CIA director. We're talking about she is the top person in the Department of
Intelligence. Yeah.
Intelligence.
National
We're talking about
intelligence.
very sophisticated and very skilled people in undercover espionage. This is one of the most. This is stuff that changes the world on preventing wars, information to prevent terrorism attacks. This is very powerful, and it's pretty crazy that Trump appointed Tulsi for this position and for her to be confirmed. It's pretty remarkable, and like I said, it's just this is what we like. To me, this is how the world should be. Not this whole DEI stuff, but because you're brown or black or whatever or social economic whatever. To me, Tulsi got there on her merit. She's been in the political game for a while. She's been an advocate for transparency, military transparent in advocating for transparency in intelligence and how the FBI and just the whole kind of law enforcement community should function, be more transparent. So to me, she got there by merit, and that's how us as Polynesian people we should be. And let's not be trapped in this thing that we should be in places because we're a minority, just for the sake of minority. Everything should be on merit, and when you do things on merit, and you will get there on your merit, and it's a much more filling accomplishment when you get there on your own merit, not because of your skin of your color or the social economic background you came from. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And the danger of thinking, like you're saying, of, oh, we have to see someone or put someone in there because of the way they look. It's the same problem that the Miss South Pacific is going to face now, right? Because the process didn't, or the process was not clear that the one with the most merit got it. Even when you get it, it doesn't feel the same. You're never going to be given the credit fully, right? That, oh, you got there because of the merit, because, oh, you just got there because you had another judge cheat for you. That's the same thing with this DEI. Oh, you just got there because you were brown or because you were this, that. That devalues that. I mean, that's one of the things that, what's the Supreme Court guy? The black guy in the Supreme Court here.
Clarence Thomas.
That's one of the things that really frustrated Clarence Thomas because he excelled academically. Well, he went to Harvard or one of the Ivy Leagues, did really well, but he was always labeled because of affirmative action and some of those things. A lot of people kind of wrote him off as, oh, you just were let there just because you were black. Right. So it devalued all his hard work, all his talent to just say, oh, you got in there just because of the color of your skin. So that's kind of like what we're talking about, right? You don't want to get into that. And to me, the primary way to show that is the correct way to think, and that's a way everyone thinks is just and fair, is sports. Sports is the number one indicator of merit because you either win or you lose at the beginning to the end of the game, right? And in sports, 99% of the time, that's why sports is one of the first areas to integrate, right? Diversity, because a lot of times sports, we don't care.
Correct.
Your background, there's only one thing we care about: win. Right? And when you win, it's off of merit, it's off of hard work, it's about sacrifice. and your teammates being willing to work together, we all agree that that's how it should happen in sports. But somehow, once we get out of sports, maybe because politics and a lot of other things get involved more, that all of a sudden we all agree sports should be on merit. But then when we get out of sports, we get some funky ideas on how people should be rewarded. But like you said, fantastic congratulations to Tulsi Gabbard. She not only has all the qualifications, she's proven herself to be tough. She's proven herself to be an independent thinker. She's proven herself to be willing to sacrifice, being powerful, being influential to do what's right. Because honestly, she was like the rising star in the Democratic Party.
Correct.
But she was like, well, I don't agree with certain things. And people started telling her, hey, you got to forget about what you disagree with. You're the rising star.
If you want to
stay the rising star, you better get in line. And she said, no, I think I want to do what's right first. And I don't agree with a lot of her politics, but in regards to the role that she's in now, like she's somewhat open to universal income and some of these other things. I don't agree with her that, but on this specific area that she's overseeing, I agree with her. You don't just finance the industrial war complex, right? And then you don't just mingle and cause problem everywhere. War is the absolute and last option,
last resort.
And you don't spy and work on the American people, blah, blah, blah. Like all of the things that's why I'm really cool and excited to see what she does, because everything in the intelligence area, there's very little that I disagree with her or think that she couldn't manage. So I'm excited to see how she progresses in that new role.
I agree. And maybe if New Zealand, like if let's just say the Cook Islands keep going with this, to New Zealand can reach out to Tulsi Gabbard maybe to assist them to maybe reel in Cook Islands with their
what is it now? Is he a prime minister? Or
Prime
what is he?
Prime Minister of the
Brown?
Cook Islands.
What is he?
Brown.
Brown?
Mark Brown.
It's like, hey, I got a big ship too. I got a big checkbook just like China. Come on, get your act together.
Yeah. So that would help. That would help. Or maybe New Zealand can make a request to send some undercover agents to Cook Island.
So what we need to do is ship over some Chinese Americans to pretend to be part of the Chinese government to strike some deals and see what the Cook Islands are really up to. Maybe they'll find that the Cook Island passport is going to have the hammer and the sickle from the Communist Party.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So, okay. Malo. With that being said, we're going to end.
Appreciate your guys' follow and support. We hope to get some new interviews coming up, just like what Tua mentioned. Love you guys all. And 2 things that we always leave the show is stay curious and ask the hard questions. Thank you, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.